Hey guys, it's Cayley. I am back with another what sold from last week video. In today's video, I'll be going over a sales report for my sales on eBay, Poshmark, and Depop. I've also pulled some individual sales, the highlights, if you will, to show you guys what buyers are actually looking for and what they're purchasing quickly. I've got some high sell-through rate bolos in here for you, and also some items that had a really low sell-through rate that I was still able to flip quickly using keywords, and we'll talk about them. Let's go ahead and dive into these sales. All right, so we are going over sales that happened November 30th through December 6th. That is a Sunday through a Saturday. In total, I had a slower sales week. I sold just 99 items. By the way, I just wanted to throw in here, anytime you are having weeks surrounding holidays and the holiday weeks themselves, it's going to be very up and down. I've been doing reselling for many years, and this has been true for every single year. So if you're currently experiencing slow sales, it's probably due to the ebbs and flows of the holiday season, people shopping in stores versus online, or new with tags versus pre-owned. But don't let it get you discouraged, because bigger sales weeks are coming. There's just fluctuations in sales around this time of the year. So in total, I sold 99 items. My gross sales were close to $3,900. My average item sale price was $31.25, lower than I want it to be, but considering most of my goods I'm getting from the bins, I'm actually making about the same net profit since we switched to mostly a bins model, which has been nice. I sold 58 on eBay. I sold 21 on Poshmark, had a very slow sales week on Poshmark. I actually was testing out promoted closet on Poshmark for the last month or so, and just last week was the first week where I stopped promoted listings and my sales took a big dip. So I'll probably talk about that in a future video, but it also again could have just been like the holiday season. So I'll be looking into that more and let you guys know what I think about promoted closet. On Depop, I sold 20 items, which is really good. I'm having some really good sales on Depop. They are becoming more consistent as I'm able to cross-post more and more of my items over there. And so I've got a ton of those at the end to show you, because I know you guys have been interested in the Depop sales. And let's go through our ASP on each platform, and then we'll dive into those items. ASP on eBay was really high. I was really happy with this one. I've had a lot of high dollar sales on eBay. My ASP was way over my goal at $42.12. On Poshmark, it was much lower at $23.76, and on Depop, it was $27.87. So let's dive into these individual listings. The first one is more of a bread and butter, but I want to talk about this because there are so many items that I used to pass on simply because they did not have good sell-through rates on eBay, which is where I check all of my comps. But since I've done factor stacking and heavily dove into style-based sourcing, where I'm having to research every single week what's trending keyword-wise, factor-wise, and brand-wise, I'm able to take all of that information and research and put that together, and it really helps me to source in all three avenues of sourcing: high sell-through rate, style base, and factor stacking. And so because of that, I'm able to see now that I was passing up on so many items that flipped quicker than Bolo brands. And this would be an example of one of those. So this is a Kirkland 100% cashmere sweater. 100% cashmere sweaters without flaws is something you can flip a lot of in fall and winter, very highly sought after. This one is a vintage style, not style, it is vintage, but also vintage looking, just pretty plain brown cashmere turtleneck sweater. If you look up the sell-through rate on these, it is not great, but this had some factors and some style-based things stacked on top of each other where I knew it'd be a good sale. Plus I included the right keywords and I priced it competitively. If you do all of those things, you're going to have quick sales. So this one was a turtleneck sweater. I included keywords like old money. You'll see a couple cashmere sales that I had where I'm including this keyword to just elevate something that has a poor sell-through rate, or maybe is a brand like Kirkland where it's not really sought after or searched. And that's how I'm able to elevate that piece. This was also brown, which is a trending color. So a lot of things stacked on top of each other. I listed this one for $25, picked it up at the bins, sold on my offer to watcher for around $21. And this one actually sold the exact same day after getting it listed. All right, next up, this is a huge bolo. This is the North Face, and I think most of us have given up on North Face unless it's outerwear, which this obviously is, but I specifically wanted to point your attention to the style called thermoball, because a lot of us right now, when we're looking for the North Face items, are only seeking after items that have true down feathers in them, and those are very valuable also, but so is, and sometimes even has a higher sell-through rate, is their down alternative called thermoball. So this is not real down, but it is their down alternative called thermoball. And whenever I see this, it's super lightweight. It almost feels like all of the down is gone, but you just have to know it. You have to know that that's not a flaw in it. It's how it's made. It's supposed to be super lightweight. And if you don't know those things, you might be passing up on these jackets, which sell for incredible amounts of money and have ridiculous sell-through rates. So this down alternative men's thermoball puffer coat in a size large, I had listed for $95 and it sold for my full asking price of $95. This one did take about a month and a half to sell. And I paid up for this because the sell-through rate was so good and I knew it was going to sell quickly. I paid $10. Next up, this was another really quick flip. This is a great shoewear brand to be on the hunt for. It is called Blundstone. Specifically, their men's Chelsea boots, the style with the paneling, perform really well. You can see these are pretty distressed, have an overall distressed look. They are not in perfect condition and they still sold so quickly. These ones were also a bit of a smaller size in a 10.5. I listed these at $100. I paid $8. They sold for my full asking price of $100. And these ones only took 4 days to sell. This is an item that has a very low sell-through rate, and the brand as a whole is not one I seek after. It is Rachel Zoe. However, I know that this brand, despite its low sell-through rate on eBay and Poshmark, is an elevated brand that people look for in-store shopping. They make some a little bit higher quality materials, and they typically retail for quite a bit. So Rachel Zoe, not great to look for on the pre-owned market, however, can be good factor stacking. So I like pairing brands that I know are higher end, tend to make their pieces a little bit better. Those are the brands that I like factor stacking and also style-based sourcing in. When I'm able to do that, I'm able to increase the style-based price that I have for it. So this was definitely the case with this. I did actually do comps at this at the thrift store to make sure I wasn't missing anything, and terrible sell-through rate, but it was such a great piece. So I style-based flipped this one. My title was Rachel Zoe Women's Long Wool Coat, size medium, black, clean girl, corp core, and professional. I've mentioned this a lot, so I'm not going to go into it again, but these longer length, dressier looking coats for both men's and women's perform incredibly well in fall and winter if you know the right keywords to use to get it to the right buyer and you know what factors they're looking for, which factors increase value, which factors decrease value for that particular buyer. This was a great piece. I paid $8.99 for this at a thrift store. I style-based priced this for $75. It sold for my full asking price of $75, and it took about a month and a week to sell. Next up, this is a brand called Taft. I'm not super familiar with it, but it is a higher end men's shoe wear brand. And on top of that has really nice factors. So we've got some like mixed textures here, and then we have a double monk strap. That's what this is called, making for a very stylish piece and high quality. I picked these up for $5, listed them for $85. They sold on an offer to watcher for $72, and they only took 3 days to sell. You guys might recognize this. I got a lot of comments about this coat when I was showing it in a thrift haul. This was thrifted by somebody else, or we got it in wholesale. Actually, the price looks like we got it in wholesale for $8. And I showed this in a thrift haul. And because I wasn't the one who searched it on a wholesale call, it was somebody else in my office. I was not familiar with this. This is a military coat, and this particular label brand pretty sought after, I guess. And I wasn't quite sure where to price it when I was at the thrift haul, showing you guys because I just didn't price it myself. And you guys left a bunch of comments like, you definitely need to price that high. I just sold one for X, Y, and Z. And so we priced it according to comps, the size we had, and our competition. We listed this item for $75 and it sold for a full asking price of $75. This one only took 2 days to sell. Title was DSCP Quarter Deck Collection Men's Old Money Wool Peacoat, size 42R Nautical Preppy. We should have put military in the title, but it's sold as a style-based piece with those things in mind. Next up, this is a Bolo brand to look for. It is Shinola Detroit. I've sold a few things by this brand. The first thing I found was their leather handbag, similar to like Portland Leather Company, very simple looking, but very high sell-through rate and high quality. These sweatshirts at the time that I found them had very little comps, so I didn't have much to go off of. And so because of that, I listed high and accepted, had best offer put on it, which is what I do when I know I have something valuable. I know it has a good sell-through rate, but I'm not really sure how, like what the market value is because there's just not enough information. So I priced this high at $100 or best offer. And I listed this one for $100 or best offer and accepted an offer of $60 because this was towards the end of the 90-day period of being listed. I'm trying to move items within 90 days. And so because I knew I was coming on that 90-day, 60 was great. I did not want to counter. I wanted to get that item moving and churning. And I think I'm going to make a video about that soon, how important it is to churn your items and not hold on to things, because that's what's generating, helping the algorithm to bring you more sales. That's what's keeping your cash flow readily abundant. That's how we can avoid emotion in our business. And so keeping things moving is so, so important for my own business model. And that's why I accepted an offer of $60 out of 100 very happily. I paid $4.99 for this, so I definitely made money and it was within my time frame. And again, Shinola Detroit, definitely a brand that you want to look for. This one sold within about 2.5 months. Okay, next up, a newer brand to me called We Norwegians. This one is a very thick cashmere sweater, and it does appear to be a brand that I would seek for. Of course, I would probably get this no matter what because of the material makeup, the fact that it's men's and it's a thicker sweater and just the style of it. We paid $10 for this. We priced it a little bit lower because there was a pulled thread on the back. Listed for $50, sold for a full asking price of $50. This one also took about 2.5 months to sell, so towards the end of the 90 days. Next up, this absolutely has a terrible sell-through rate. If you look up Forever 21 dresses, even midi length, you're going to see really, really poor sell-through rates on eBay. But I knew how valuable this one was because I have been studying style-based sourcing, different aesthetics that I know are trending, and figuring out exactly what buyers increase or decrease value for that particular buyer. So in this case, this aesthetic really leaned towards whimsy goth, and I included some other keywords with that, but that's really who I was targeting. And a lot of really nice factors with this dress, even though it is Forever 21. We also pick this up at the bins. I also get stuff like this at regular thrift stores when I'm very confident in it, because again, it flips so quickly. So despite the low sell-through rate, very happy with this piece. This had a baby doll neckline, great silhouette, asymmetric details. It even had this little lace detail here and was in the color black. I listed this for $50. It sold for my full asking price, and this one took a couple of months to sell. Next up, this one is a brand you all know called Lululemon. Very picky with this brand these days, but I do look for their more substantial pieces like jackets still. This one I had to dig into a lot because if you just look up Define jacket, does not have like an incredible sell-through rate, but when you really drill down to the size and the color, the sell-through rate completely changes. So make sure to include factors when you're doing your comp search. And after seeing this particular color in this jacket, I saw it had a good sell-through rate. I paid $13.99 for this and I listed it for $50, staying competitive again. And it sold for my full asking price of $50. This one only took 2 days to sell. Next up, this was another one that I wasn't really quite sure where to list it at, so I priced high and accepted best offer. We were coming towards the end of the 90 days, and I received an offer, which I accepted to get the item moving. Got this at the bins. Tank tops like these are so cheap at the bins, like maybe $1, probably more like 50 cents. And I can just like make so much money off of them. They're so lightweight. They flip for so much and they generally sell within my 90-day window. So this is Abercrombie and Fitch. This is a Y2K baby doll tank top, a little bit more plain. And it was obviously a tank top and not long sleeve or anything like that. So I kept that in mind with pricing. Priced at $75 or best offer and accepted an offer of $50 and got that moving. Again, this sold towards the end of that 90-day window. So was happy to accept 50. All right, this one did take past the 90 days to sell. And I think that there are a few brands and items in my business where I am okay with waiting a little bit longer because I have a history of selling them in my store and they almost always sell for about the same amount for me. I wouldn't do this with pieces that sold for like $25, $30. I'm not willing to wait that long, but for things that generally sell $40 and up, I'm sometimes willing to wait on those pieces if I've got a history of it in my own store. Ming Wang in plus sizes is one of those things for me. So this is a Ming Wang size 2X blazer jacket or blazer cardigan. I originally listed this higher. It did not sell within the 90 days and it ended up selling on a dropped price of $46.34. I paid $2.50. That's another thing. If I know it's going to take longer to sell, I'm not willing to tie up as much investment as something that I know is going to flip quickly. So you just saw I paid like $13.99 for something that flipped into $50, but it sold super quickly versus something like this where I'm going to, yeah, get 40 plus for it, but it's going to take more months than I'm willing to. And so because I don't want to tie up my cash flow for very long, I try to, not always, but I try to most of the time pick it up at a lower price so that my initial investment isn't tied up. So $250 into this one. It did take several months to sell, but sold for that dropped price of around $46. All right, next up, anytime I see anything 100% camel hair, I'm always looking at it up with all of the factors. This is a Talbot's women's camel hair blazer in a size 16. Got this from the bins, listed it for $40 and it sold for a full asking price of $40. And this one only took about a week to sell. I use keywords like camel hair because that is a factor that I know increases the value, tan, business, professional, and sophisticated. Okay, this was also a super quick flip. This is definitely a brand-based factor stacking item. If you look up Everlane as a brand, terrible sell-through rate again, but there are pieces where you can factor stack and bring it to a high sell-through rate. This is definitely one of those. So this is a chunky wool zip pullover cardigan. It was a size medium. It's in a trending color and it was also oversized. Oversized items in most cases, depending on which buyer you're selling this to, in most cases is a factor that increases value. People want really cozy oversized things right now. And so I always include that in my title if something is oversized. I paid $4.99 at a regular thrift store for this. I listed for $40. It sold for my full asking price of $40 and it actually sold the very next day after being listed. This is a pair of On Clouds and this is a brand that I don't get everything anymore. I used to just see the brand on cloud and pick everything up. I don't think you can do that anymore, but I do look up the specific style and comp search all the factors. This one was called the Cloud Venture hiking sneakers in a women's size 10. I listed these for $40 just because they did have a little bit of wear. I paid $5.99. They sold for my full asking price of $40, and these ones only took about a week to sell. Here's another cashmere piece in a brand that isn't necessarily like, I don't think, a Bolo brand, like not super high sell-through rate. And here's how I elevated the piece. So I paid $6.19 for it. I ended up selling it on an offer for $38. And I sold this within just about a week and a half by using keywords like quiet luxury. Another good one for this would have been old money if I could have fit it in. Next up, this brand, I don't find it often, but I always pick it up. It is Errata Silent Journey. I only get it if there's a lot of like details to it. This brand is known for like very beautiful prints, different panels of stuff. This one was all the same fabric, but it did have some beautiful prints and this bird embroidery. And I know that the Errata Silent Journey buyer is looking for those things. I included keywords like embroidered, artsy, and boho. I listed this for $40. I paid $4.99, and this sold within a little over 2 months for my full asking price. So definitely one you want to keep your eye out for. All right, this has an incredible sell-through rate. It is highly looked over. LL Bean men's sweater vest. Crazy, insane sell-through rate when I looked this up. This one also had some extra details like the multicolor pattern, kind of like a Fair Isle look to it. Plus it was a size large. I elevated this by using keywords like academia and teacher. I listed this one for $40. Here's another one that I knew because of sell-through rate would flip quickly and was willing to pay up for it. I paid $8.99 to flip into $40. This one very quickly sold on my normal offers to watchers for $34. And this sold within about 2 weeks of being listed. I also did want to say, I know you guys are having a lot of questions about Nifty. A ton of you tried it out, and almost all of you, I think, if I'm reading the numbers right, have stayed with Nifty. It's just so good that I really have not heard of a single reseller has tried it and not stayed with Nifty. And one of the reasons that I like it personally, and I know you all love it, is because not only can you cross post and that part's easy and their inventory system happens like instantly and it's awesome, but also you can use it for offers and recreates and things like that. And other cross-posting tools that I've used in the past had offers and things, but they never really worked as well as I wanted them to, or maybe they never had features that I wanted. But with Nifty, for the most part, everything has, ups and downs, but for the most part, it's worked very seamlessly. So I've actually switched my offers over to Nifty because not only can you send offers on Poshmark, but you can have it auto send offers on eBay. You can have it auto send offers on Depop. You can have it auto send offers on Mercari if you're on Mercari. And so I have transitioned all of my offers over to that, and it takes care of everything for me. And so these offers that you're seeing, these like normal offers to watchers that I send out for 15% off, are happening like pretty much as soon as the buyer is liking the item. You can set it to whatever you want, but it's how I'm able to capture a lot of those sales that I otherwise wouldn't be able to if I was still manually going in each day to eBay and having to bulk check everything and send out those offers, which did work. I made sales off of that, but I'm able to make more because I'm able to get to those buyers a lot quicker. And so if you have Nifty and you're not already using it for that, highly recommend looking into that because it has just like erased a bunch of steps out of my process for multiple platforms, which is really cool. This next one is one from Joe's Vintage T-shirt collection. I think he still has a few more he needs to give me. But this was one of the, I would say, lower tiers out of that, but still a cool shirt nonetheless. It is a 1997 Taco Bell Batman promo shirt. It was in pretty decent condition. There was like small cracking on the graphic. Um, this was another one that I would say had like a 50% sell-through rate when I looked it up. And what I do in those cases, if I still feel like I have something valuable, but it's not quite 100%, I just know I'm going to have to price competitively. And I look at the keywords that people used in the ones that sold for the most money. If those apply to my item, I'm including those in my own title. So that's why this title was here. And I priced a little bit lower, just like $5 lower at $35, and it did sell. My cost of goods was zero because it came from Joe's Closet, and this sold within about a week of being listed. All right, next up, this is a bins item. This is an incredibly flawed item, like staining throughout the whole thing. There weren't any holes or tears or anything, but staining throughout. It is a little baby toddler Patagonia puffer jacket. Now, if you can sell a jacket in certain brands well in adults, the chances are that they also sell well in kids. So keep your eye out for them. I don't go through all of kids right now, but what I do like to do is just glance down the aisle and see if I see any puffer jackets or like fleece North Faces and things. I always do my comps, but you would be shocked at how much better some of the sell-through rates and prices are of the kid stuff versus the adult stuff. And so I'm always looking for those as well. We actually got 2 of this exact style at the bins. This has like a 300 or 400% sell-through rate, which is crazy. The style name for this was called the down sweater hoodie. Spelled exactly like that. And these things in great condition sell for like, I would say around $80, $60 to $80. Ours unfortunately was heavily stained. I don't even know if you can tell from this because there's like a sheen to the item, but it was stained really badly. So we significantly dropped the price because of that. And that is an instance where we are willing to pick up something incredibly flawed. You got to use good judgment, right? If there was a bunch of holes and all of the down was out, that is not a flaw I would consider reasonable, but staining all over, the kid's going to wear it outside. Do I still have room to significantly drop the price and move it with this high of a sell-through rate? And whenever those all apply, we still get it. So this probably cost us $1.50. I listed this for $35 because of all of the staining. It sold very quickly the exact same day for our full asking price of $35. I can't remember. I don't think the other one sold yet, but it's getting a lot of attention. Next up, I've mentioned these before, tons of thrift hauls, tons of what sold videos. If you're not paying attention, please do, because you can come across these so quickly and they're great padding sales. Men's Nike sweatpants, specifically these ones, the club fleeces, any size and good condition, perform really well for me, and I can usually flip them for $25 very quickly. So we get them very often. I got these ones at the bins. These ones took about 3 weeks to sell for my full asking price of $25, and we probably paid $2 at the bins. My average cost of goods at the bins, by the way, is $1.50. So really great place to get inventory and lower my average cost of goods. Next up, this is another item, incredibly low sell-through rate. Linda Allard, Ellen Tracy, not a brand you want to look for. But this was a vintage shirt. So how am I still able to sell a vintage shirt with a really low sell-through rate within my 90-day window and for decent money? The answer is because I know which buyer I'm marketing this to, and because there's a demand for items like these in this aesthetic, and it has factors that I know increase the value for the buyer. So this one was a vintage heavily beaded top. I included words like Y2K, fairy, and rave in this one to get it to sell more quickly and get that to the right buyer. This ended up selling on an offer for $29, and I paid $4.49 for this. All right, I can't remember if I showed you guys this brand in my original base layer video or if it's about to come out in the part 2 that you guys asked me for, which I don't think has gone live yet. But this is the brand Segments. So this is another great wool base layer brand to look for, and really any wool base layer right now, look it up. Most brands that you would normally pass on in wool base layers do really well. They're heavily overlooked. We find them almost every time we're thrifting. So this is Segments. This is a 100% merino wool women's long sleeve base layer. I listed this one for $30 because it was in excellent condition. We got it in wholesale for $6 and it sold for our full asking price of $30. This one only took a week to sell. All right, next up, and the last one for eBay. This one is another category. I have been style-based flipping very quickly. You guys have seen them in a ton of my thrift hauls and what sold videos, and they are men's thermal shirts. So this one is by the brand Timberland. It is a larger size. I included words like long sleeve, waffle knit, thermal, layers, all of that stuff. I listed this for $25, which is about what I list items for in this category, and it sold for my full asking price of $25. This one did take a few months to sell, so about 90 days, and I only paid 25 cents for it. So again, something that's commonly overlooked. Once we start selling spring items, I'm going to stop picking these up because these are bread and butter for me. It only really works during like peak season for this kind of thing. All right, moving on to some Poshmark sales. I quite literally did not, I hardly sold anything on Poshmark, so very little to show you, but I did pull a few for you that were some of the highlights of my Poshmark sales. This is a pair of Crocs. I've talked about Crocs as a brand before. High sell-through rate in a lot of Crocs styles. You just want to make sure to lens it, know which style you have, size, and all of that. And believe it or not, some Crocs styles can sell for hundreds of dollars pre-owned because some of them are discontinued and people just love them and buy them in like every color. So I see Crocs, I'm looking it up, and I've been actually selling a lot of their sandals, even in the middle of winter, if that tells you how popular Crocs are. These were called the Patricia Wedge sandals. They're in a size 8. I listed these for $35. My, again, Nifty cross-posting tool. I have the highest subscription, so it does everything, and it sends out offers automatically to Poshmark, so I don't have to worry about that, and this is how I end up having those sales. This ended up selling on that offer for $29. Here's another style-based thing I look for during fall and winter, similar to the men's thermals, are men's corduroy pants. Corduroy during this time of the year, even for women's, can elevate value, but specifically men's pants do really well. These were a pair of Levi's. They are in a like burgundy purplish red color. I listed these ones for $35 again. Nifty automatically sent out those offers for $29 and someone accepted. All right, this is a completely unbranded item. If you're looking at items like these, you're probably thinking, obviously that would not sell with it being unbranded and it being such a like low substantial piece. But I see pieces like this as money, like money, 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 especially at the bins where I'm picking it up for like 50 cents, if that, and can flip it for my full asking price of 30. I love style-based sourcing for this reason. So this is a completely unbranded women's fishnet tank top. I use tons of keywords in this, both in the title and the description. And I made sure to put fishnet, cybergoth, Y2K, and grunge. This sold for my full asking price of $30. This is a bolo you want to look out for. It is Figs base layers. They're not made out of wool, but they're made to be like worn under the scrub top, and they have a really great sell-through rate. They don't sell for much, but high sell-through rate. This one is a Figs size medium unisex one. It sold for my expected price of $25 very quickly. Next up, another very low sell-through rate. This is J. Jill size medium, so not plus size or anything, blouse. Normally, if I'm doing comps, I wouldn't get something like this because terrible sell-through rate. But again, style-base wise, it's like all of the factors are increasing like the sell-through rate in my head for this item. So I know it would sell quickly. So this is a silk patchwork. I used Forest Fairy, boho, and sheer on this one. I accepted an offer of $23 just to move it quicker, but I probably could have held out for closer to $30 on this one because it is such a beautiful piece. Last one on Poshmark, and then I'll finish up with quite a few Depop sales for you. This is Athleta. This is another brand similar to Lululemon that I'm really, really picky with. One thing I still look for in Athleta are actual pants. So not leggings, but pants. And I always look up the style, the size, etc. One thing I have noticed in Athleta pants is if it's a larger size, generally I'm seeing a better sell-through rate, especially plus sizes. So these ones were the Brooklyn ankle pants in a plus size 22. I listed these for $35 and accepted an offer of $27. Okay, going into Depop, just a reminder, because I'm not going to go over it every video, but the likes are here. And then because I do boost my entire store, you'll have boosting stats down here. So you can see how many impressions it had, how many people clicked into it. And you can also see how long it took to list right here. And then my title is here. I listed this American Eagle Y2K long sleeve thermal shirt for $25. It sold on that Nifty automatic offer for $21.15. All of these are plus shipping. This one only took 7 days to sell, a week. And again, items like these are quick grabs at the bins. You just got to make sure it's actually Y2K and you're pairing the right keywords with it and understanding that buyer, which I'd be happy to show you inside of Reseller's Edge. We can get you caught up pretty quickly. The next one is a no-name brand women's sweater. This was actually plus size, and the reason this one sold so well, even though it was just like acrylic, is because it has mixed prints in it, and it really fits that like Fair Isle aesthetic. Anytime I have mixed prints in this like Fair Isle aesthetic, it always performs well for me, and this one was plus size. So I listed this one for, I think, originally $45 and accepted an offer of $36. This one only took 15 days to sell. Next up, another Y2K top. This is the brand Express. You can see this has 83 likes, almost 10,000 views, over 300 clicks into it. So lots and lots of traffic on this piece. And by the way, I am starting to list like my name based brands over there, and they're also selling. So I'll show you a couple of those here in a second. But it's not just like the vintage stuff. You don't only have to list vintage on Depop. I know some people that like are killing it with like mature brands on Depop. I know some people who are killing it with only name brands on Depop. So don't let the fact that a lot of these are vintage scare you from listing your other stuff on there, because I do have sales for some other stuff. This one is a vintage Y2K Express strapless lacy top. I use keywords like whimsy, goth, and coquette with this one. I listed for $36 and it sold on the offer for $30.60. And this one only took 16 days to sell. A lot of these are selling within a couple of weeks. This one also only took a couple of weeks to sell. This is not a brand you would want to know, but it is a true Y2K top. It is velvet. Velvet is a very trending factor right now, especially paired in a Y2K top like this. I listed this one for around $32 and it sold on an offer for $26.78 plus shipping. Lots of love on this item as well. All right, here is a brand I hardly ever get. It is Gimmicks by BKE, sold at Buckle. Usually, even though their stuff is like really unique, I usually cannot categorize it like into one aesthetic where I think it makes sense for the buyer. So I come across it a lot, but I don't get it. However, this particular piece I thought was really good. I thought it could go a lot of different ways, and the sequins with New Year's Eve coming up, might be good as well. So keywords I used with this were fairy grunge and festival and Y2K. I listed this for around $32 as well, and it sold on an offer for around $27. This one only took a week to sell. Here's another Forever 21 piece. This one is a velvet whimsy goth top. Lots of great details. The shaping of this is very coquette as well. Great piece. I listed this one for $35 and it sold within just 9 days for that automatic Nifty offer of $29.65 plus shipping. This one, again, lots and lots of clicks considering how it wasn't listed for very long. And again, you guys, I still walk by all of these. I can't even imagine how much money I left behind. Okay, next up, another velvet piece. This one is by the brand Worthington. Not a brand most people are looking for, but great style-based piece. This one had some beautiful dark purple flowers on it. It had some sheer details and then a bell sleeve. I listed this one for $35 because I thought that it had a lot of unique elevated values for that style, which was whimsy goth. And it sold very quickly, just 2 weeks on a Nifty offer of $29.75 plus shipping, almost 400 clicks on this one and almost 100 likes. Here is another whimsy goth item. I also included fairy grunge with this one. The brand, no name brand, just a style-based piece. This one was also a black sheer flowy top with some interesting details. I listed this one for $30. It actually sold for my full asking price of $30. This one also only took a couple of weeks, 13 days to sell. Here is a brand-based item. This is also very springy for this time of the year, and it still sold. Natural Life is a brand I love picking up, and especially their dresses, but even their tops, like pretty much anything Natural Life, I'm personally picking up, and it is flipping super quickly in my store. Even when the comps don't show a high sell-through rate, there is a huge following for this brand, and I think if you pair it with the right keywords, it does well. So this is a maxi dress. I use the keywords on this one, boho and hippie, and I also use dainty floral just because of that micro print. I listed this one for $40. I quickly received an offer from a buyer for $30, which I accepted, and this one also took only a couple of weeks to sell. Here is another Y2K style top. You guys know I love selling the corsety type tops. I find these in the lingerie section most of the time, and I just make sure that they actually can be worn as a top, meaning there's not like super sheer details everywhere. I listed this one for $30. It sold for my full asking price of $30 plus shipping. And this one actually took a month to sell. I use keywords like whimsy goth and fairy grunge on this one as well. Lots of views. All right, this one is completely unbranded. This is a milkmaid style dress. I also included keywords like festival and renaissance. This one had a few stains issues with it, so I priced lower because of that. And it still only took a couple of weeks to sell. I listed for $30. It sold on an offer to watcher for $24 plus shipping. All right, this was an interesting sale. I was really happy with this. So I came across this Free People top. Very picky with Free People. And anytime I see one that's like really interesting, I always Google lens it because sometimes it's an as seen on item. And when I lens this, there was only one indication of this being an ASO item. I tried to look it up on other places. Google Lens was the only place I saw where somebody recognized that this was an ASO piece. And I can see why, because she's layering a dress and stuff over it. I'm not familiar with this show, but it is Rain, and it looks like they have like very medieval princessy style stuff. But this was a really cool as seen on item from that. And so I capitalized on that. I saw other people had this listed, but did not have it listed as an ASO. So I did and priced accordingly. I listed this for $45. I quickly received an offer for $35 and it sold within just 2 weeks of being listed. And the very last item of today's video and the very last one on Depop is this Y2K sweater. This one is so on trend. This is by the brand The Limited, not a Bolo brand, but it is one that I find has a lot of great Y2K style pieces. So it's not technically baby doll, but the way this knit pattern breaks here, it makes it look baby doll. So that was one feature. There's mixed knit patterns in here. The color itself is really good, and it's just an all over great silhouette. With lots of great factor stacking. I listed this one for $30. It sold for my full asking price of $30 within just a couple of weeks of listing on Depop. And yeah, this performed really well. All right, you guys, so that's it for what sold last week. Hope that you all enjoyed watching. If you're not already, consider subscribing down below. My name is spelled pretty weird, so you probably won't find me again if you don't. Make sure to hit that notification bell and hit all if you want to be notified for every video that I post, including these what sold videos. I do them every single week to report out on what is selling well for me on all of these platforms and try to do a small but quick breakdown for each of the items that I show you so that you'll know what to look for while you're outsourcing as well. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having wonderful holidays. I'll definitely see you before Christmas, but if I don't, Merry Christmas, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.